Hi, welcome to Comptroller's Corner. I'm your host, Pat Curry, joined as always by Buffalo Comptroller Mark Schroeder. Our top story today, in a yearly report required by the city charter, Comptroller Schroeder takes note of the progress made towards a more structurally balanced budget. And while the amount of fund balance used to close the budget gap is less than anticipated, Comptroller Schroeder warns that adequate reserves must be maintained in order to ensure the city's fiscal health. Now, Mark, in your budget response, you said that because the administration is relying less on fund balance, this is a move towards a more structurally balanced budget, which is something that you've been asking for years.
Exactly. We've been watching this, Patrick, right from the beginning. And we thought that the mayor and the administration was getting to a point of maybe around $25, $27 million using that to kind of balance things out. That's concerning to the comptroller's office and also really to the city at large. So at the end of the day, the actual fund balance that was used was approximately $15 million less than what we thought they were going to do, which would be problematic. It would be problematic for a lot of reasons, is because when we have these conversations with partners, with rating agencies, there's certain assumptions and certain things that we say. So at the end of the day, this is much better. Keep in mind that this mayor, administration and council have tried their best to keep taxes down for city residents and also businesses. And so therefore, it's difficult to balance all of that without having revenue streams really come in. So at the end of the day, our response was relatively mild in that we anticipated that they might be using more fund balance, but they did not. So therefore, at the end of the day, we're feeling pretty good about the budget that came out in our response in terms of the the responsibility that we have to let the citizens know how we feel about it.
And another thing you noted in your report is that not only is the administration relying less on fund balance in the proposed fiscal budget year coming up, but they're also weaning themselves off of the use of reserves and substantial reductions in all four of the four-year plans, and almost to the end of the four-year plan, where they're using $500,000, which is considerably less than the $27 million that was budgeted this year,
right.
And less than has been used in many previous years.
Well, we'll see if that's a fact, in the out years. But for now, you're right. The trend is favorable. For the audience, they probably know because we've published our PAFR, our Popular Annual Financial Review, and we've shared it with citizens across the city, in that there is a general fund balance. And in the general fund balance, there are several different categories that we look at, one of which is the rainy day fund or the emergency stabilization fund, and then there's certain other categories. At the end of the day, the top number always needs to be over $100 million. Now, over the last several years, that number has dwindled down a little bit, which is concerning to me and to Ann Fudi-Sciarrino and to our staff within the Comptroller's office. But if it remains, and you're right, if you look on the out years, if it remains to be over $100 million, that's what I've said, that's what this administration has said through its Commissioner of Finance to the three rating agencies, that we're going to be above that $100 million. If that's the case, some of the trends and using some of the money, whether it's $15 million or $13 million, it's going to be a non-issue. If it goes under the $100 million, then that means we told the rating agencies one thing and did something else. That could be a problem.
So you mentioned the $100 million benchmark, and even though the fund balance draws are less than anticipated and less than in previous years. Under the 4-year plan, it would actually dip below that $100 million benchmark in 2016-2017 fiscal year.
Right.
Now, that's a warning that you said the city can't go below that line because you made, as you mentioned, made a commitment to all 3 rating agencies when they did their budget, when they did the ratings on the city, that we would always maintain $100 million, and that's important for preventing a downgrade.
Exactly. I mentioned on one of the previous shows, Patrick, that the mayor asked me the question in terms of how the city would get a higher rating from the rating agencies. And before I explained that to him, I explained to him how we could get a lower rating, a downgrade. And it's exactly what the conversation that we've been having. One way is to tell them one thing and do something else. And so you're right. On a 4-year plan going out, it gets right below the 100 million. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. And quite frankly, I've had very candid conversations with the mayor and with members of the Common Council. And so I'm convinced that they understand and that each and every year we will stay above the 100 million.
Now, I do want to talk specifically about revenues and expenditures included in this budget, but before we get into that, one thing you noted in your budget response, which is available on your website, is that although the 4-year plan doesn't have the detail needed in order to make a really make your auditors comfortable in how they're seeing those out years materialize. And you were looking for more detail in that 4-year plan so that you can have a better estimation about how accurate it will be in the future.
Yeah, and so I think it's something that will come eventually. Keep in mind, if it wasn't for the Comptroller's office, there probably would be no 4-year plan. As you remember, Patrick, we put forth legislation that adopted what the control board had been doing for years in having a 4-year plan. And so we put forth legislation and the council approved it, the school board approved it, so that both entities, the city and the school board, are doing 4-year plans. Now, they could get better at the 4-year plan, and there should be more detail in it. And they should be comparing the 4-year plan each and every year to see how they're doing against it. Now, we do that. We're watching it. We're watching the plan that it comes out in terms of the year we're in. But we're also looking at that 4-year plan out as well, and then we're comparing it to see how they're doing. And it is true. Even corporations, when they're doing their 4-year or 5-year planning, they don't have the level of detail that's in the 1-year plan, but they have information, far more information really than what the city has provided. But I've been the controller now for 4 years, and we've identified certain things, and then we've explained to the administration why it's important to do it. And quite frankly, I believe that they have adapted to some of the things that we've done. And when Ann Fortini-Sciarrino and I first started 4 years ago, we said that we would like to help train and teach other departments outside of the Comptroller's department on certain things, and this is one of them.
Now, another thing that changed since last year's budget response that you issued, in addition to using less fund balance than anticipated, this budget doesn't have the questionable revenues that you noted in last year's budget regarding up to $15 million worth of revenue estimates that you felt were overly optimistic. Now, 10 months into the fiscal year, those concerns that you had are valid, and many of those revenue estimates are not coming in at where they were anticipated.
Yeah.
You found that this year's budget, for the proposed 15-16 budget, is much more responsible in estimating the revenue, and it doesn't have these assumptions that got you concerned last year, and then this is much more responsible revenue estimation.
Yeah, Patrick, the citizens of Buffalo, they know that I'm the fiscal officer, and they know I've got the hammer, or I can ring the bell. And so last year, you're absolutely right. After the first quarter, it was very unusual for my office to come out so strongly on some of the revenue gaps, because usually in the first quarter you really can't tell what's going to happen over a full 12 month, but there were some things that looked very concerning to us right from the beginning, and they continued on during the first half. And then, as you've noted, through the third quarter, and now we're finishing the year, everything that we said, every concern that we had about some of the revenue that the administration and the mayor thought was coming in did not come in. And so we did the right thing. The administration, they made necessary changes. Sometimes it's beyond the mayor and the council. They may have to interface with the New York State legislature or the governor. They've done it. They've made all the adjustments that they can make. But our job is to look at the documents that they give us and then tell them how we think it's going to work. And I think we did a very, very good job. I'm very proud of my first deputy and all of the deputies within the comptroller's office who have done very good work on this aspect of it.
And one thing in the revenue side that you needed more information was about the $8 million in land sales anticipated, because the $5 million in the current year budget hasn't quite hit that mark yet, so you just need more information to feel confident that those $8 million in revenue from sale of land will be realized.
Right, and there's times where we use very safe language because we realize that the administration does not have to give us certain information until the deal is actually done. We get that, we realize that, so we're not overly critical, but we do have a responsibility to look at their their budget and also their anticipated revenues coming in, and then we kind of do our report card on that.
Now, you said this is a good step towards a more structurally balanced budget. Ways that you achieve a balanced budget are to either increase revenues, dip into savings, or what the administration did in this case is reduce expenses. And the 11 million or 2.2% reduction in expenses compared to last year is very encouraging to your office. And part of the way that they did that is they hired over 100 new firefighters. Now, not only will those firefighters be earning less than current firefighters, but there also will decrease the need for overtime, which cost the city $9.2 million in fiscal year ending 14, and already exceeded that amount in fiscal year 15, the current fiscal year, and we still have 2 months to go.
Sure.
So this was a very important move and helped substantially lower the city's expenditures by bringing on this new class, two new classes of firemen.
Yeah, exactly. And so we've been watching the overtime for all departments within the city of Buffalo and its entities. Probably one of the highest was within the fire. And so certainly when you're talking about public safety, especially fire and police, there is going to be overtime, period, the end. There's no way around it. But over the last several years, as you've indicated, Patrick, it's been, for fire, it's been around $10 million or so consistently. That's a lot of overtime. That's a lot of money. And there were 100 vacancies within the ranks of the fire department. And because of the new contract that was agreed to by the union and the administration, our projections is that soon, there are going to be several experienced firefighters who are going to be retiring. And so, therefore, the city putting on 2 classes, which are in the academy right now, and it is anticipated that they will continue to put on new classes each and every year because they're anticipating that there will be retirements. And again, what you've said, I mean, it's obvious. When you have a brand new employee, which is at a different tier level, and they're going to be getting wages that are going to be beginning wages as opposed to firefighters who have earned more pay over 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, certainly there will be an overall savings within the budget. And so that's what we're anticipating going forward.
Now, Mark, we got to take a brief break, but I want to talk more about your budget response when we get back.
Okay, Patrick.
Stay tuned for more Comptroller's Corner after this message.
Are you unemployed, underemployed, or do you need to improve your job skills? Then the Buffalo Employment and Training Center is here for you. The Buffalo Employment and Training Center is your one-stop employment shop. Whether you need help with your search, access to information, seminars, or training, our expert and caring staff is here for you. And the best part is, all of our services are free. The Buffalo Employment and Training Center is conveniently located at 77 Goodell Street in downtown Buffalo with plenty of free parking. For more information, call 856-JOBS or visit us on the web at www.workforcebuffalo.org.
Hi, welcome back to Comptroller's Corner. I'm your host, Pat Curry, joined as always by Buffalo Comptroller Mark Schroeder. We've been discussing the Comptroller's budget response, which is required by the city charter. Now, Mark, we were discussing some of the expenditures that went down for this proposed budget, and one of the ways that the city was able to cut costs was by going to a self-insured model for health insurance. Now, the city had done this for its prescription drug coverage in the past, and it yielded significant savings for the city. Now, moving to this for all health insurance coverage for city employees will definitely make a huge savings for the city and help to reduce our fringe benefit costs for our employees.
Yeah, exactly. And these are things that take time, because these are things that have to be negotiated. They have to be talked about. They have to be agreed on. And so, therefore, once you get to this level, it is important and it is helpful to the overall finances of the city of Buffalo. And so I will encourage the administration and the council to continue to have these types of conversations with collective bargaining units and with others, so that some of these types of initiatives can actually happen, which will benefit the citizens of the city of Buffalo.
Now, one of the ways that the expenditures were cut for the city in this proposed budget, really we're at the mercy of the stock market in some of these instances, and especially when it comes to the city's contribution to the state pension fund. Now, all the city employees are covered under the New York State retirement system.
That's correct, yeah.
And because Comptroller Tom DiNapoli has been doing an excellent job in managing that pension fund, the amount that the city needed to contribute to the fund was reduced by $8.7 million, quite a significant savings.
Yeah, the state comptroller, Tom DiNapoli, he consistently has been extremely helpful to municipalities across New York State, and especially Buffalo, based on the number you just cited. And the state comptroller was just reelected, and when you're elected, you have a tendency to let people know what you're going to do as their representative. And the state comptroller has made it very, very clear that he understands the responsibility he has to manage the pension system. And he also understands the significance of it and what it means to other municipalities across New York State, Buffalo in particular. And so because of his good work, this benefits the overall budget, the overall finances for the city of Buffalo. And these things really are recognized by a lot of our partners that we deal with, by the rating agencies. They understand the good work that's being done by the governor in terms of his economic development pledge to Buffalo, and also to have a fiscal watchdog like the state comptroller who is watching what his responsibilities are. And if that will continue, that will be beneficial to the city of Buffalo as we begin to rise and as we begin to understand what's happening here in Buffalo and why people are excited about what's happening here in Buffalo. Not only is it economic developments, but it also we have to be fiscally prudent, and by having the help of the state comptroller will continue to help us along that path.
Now, another reduction in expenditures in this proposed budget is a $3.2 million reduction in debt service costs. Now, that has to do with market conditions as well, but it also has to do with the city's improved bond ratings and the reduced capital borrowing that you have spearheaded since you've been comptroller.
Right, no question. And Patrick, a little bit in the show when we talk about some of the refundings, you will see that we are reducing debt everywhere we go, every single year. That is the key, and that is one of the reasons why over the last 2.5 years, the city has earned upgrades from Moody's and from Standard & Poor's. Part of the equation is reducing debt, and so that it continues to be a very important hallmark of our administration as the Buffalo City Comptroller, but also we expect the state comptroller to continue to do the work they're doing. The state of New York, as you know, was upgraded also last year, which helps us in many, many ways going forward.
Now, while we're talking about budgeting, there has been an initiative started in the council and with many concerned community activists and concerned citizens about a participatory budgeting process for the city of Buffalo.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And they approached you, and you've been supportive of their efforts. And what they're looking to do is include the community more, especially when it comes to community development block grant funds. Now, this is roughly $18 million in funding that the city gets from the federal government.
Right.
And often you've called to the Bureau, the Buffalo Urban Renewal Agency, to do a better job in dispersing this fund. Well, not only do you think that citizen participation in that process and the budgeting for those funds could help identify which projects are needed across the city, but you think it would help get the money out the door if the citizens have a stake in this?
There's no question about it, and to be consistent, as an amateur historian, I will tell you, it was Peter B. Crotty, from where I'm from, in Buffalo in the 1950s when he was council president. He is the one who began to really get citizens involved and to have them sit at the table, because the citizens are volunteers. They're not getting paid. They're doing things for the community. They have insight. They see things. They should be given an opportunity, especially over the last 4 years. I've made it very clear how disappointed I am with the administration and with the group called Bureau, who has been unable to spend down the $18 to $24 million a year that comes from the federal government, which is really money earmarked for the most vulnerable citizens in the city of Buffalo. It's inexcusable. So if citizens groups can come together and help the city sometimes get out of its way to spend down this money, then I'm going to be all for it.
Okay, Mark, the comprehensive annual financial report done by your accounting division just won its 9th consecutive certificate of achievement for excellence in reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association.
Yeah.
Now, you expected this award because you know the great work that the folks in accounting do every year, making sure the city's books are all in order.
Yeah, so I'm very proud of the accounting division, especially proud of its first leader, and that was the former city accountant, Ann Forty-Sherino, who is now my first deputy. It's now, the city accountant now is Bill Ferguson. Bill Ferguson and Ann Forty-Sherino and the entire accounting division staff have been working very, very closely over the years, and they don't rest on their laurels. Listen, this is 9th year in a row. Last year, the Division of Accounting put in a brand new software system because they want to be better. And so to me, that's initiative, and I give the accounting division under Bill Ferguson's leadership a lot of credit, A+, for winning another award for the city of Buffalo.
Now, Mark, before you're controller, you were a New York State Assemblyman and you're in Erie County Legislature. But the viewers might not know that you had a career in sales that lasted over 25 years.
Yeah.
You're going to be making a different sales pitch. You're going to take your sales pitch on the road to
Yeah.
Chicago and New York City. And this time, you're going to be selling the city of Buffalo to investors. You're going to be making the pitch that the city of Buffalo is a great place to invest your funds if you're an investor of municipal
Sure.
bonds that the
Yeah.
city's doing. You're doing a bond refunding for the Joint Schools Construction Board that could save $27 million, and also for the Water Authority that could save roughly $5 million.
Yeah.
Now, not only will these savings be generated, but you could increase even more savings if you make the case and there's more people interested in the city's refunding bonds.
Yeah. So first of all, on the Comptroller's office, on behalf of the school district, what is called the Joint School Construction Board, we are refunding a couple of old 2007, 2008 A-Series bonds. And so by doing so, we will yield approximately $27 million to the school district so that they can put that in their capital projects. And so one of the things that we're going to do, listen, being in the private sector, I always know you have to do your homework first. I know who has invested in our bonds over the last 4 years that I've been a controller, and I want to expand it. I want to expand it into other investors because I realize a lot of positive things are happening with Buffalo right now. It's perfect timing. So we will be doing a roadshow, myself and Barbara Smith, who is the COO of the Buffalo Public Schools. We're going to be going to Chicago. And there, right now, over the last several years, less than 7% of investors in the Midwest invest in Buffalo. We're going to change that. We're going to go to Chicago, and we're going to tell our story, and we're going to see to it that more investors understand that you want to be investing in Buffalo going in the future. Same thing will happen then the next day. We'll go to New York City, and we will be meeting with 5 or 6 investors who have not really done business with the city of Buffalo, and we will tell our story. We'll tell our financial story, but we'll also tell our economic development story, and that will entice more investors into wanting to bid and be involved in Buffalo's business, which is good for Buffalo.
Now, Mark, we only have a minute left, and you were a reader at an Olmsted school for El Dia Del Nino. That's the Day of the Child.
Yeah.
And that's put on by the Hispanic Heritage Association in West New York.
Yep.
Tell us a little about this event and why it's so important to students.
So first of all, I just want to commend Kaz Rodriguez and the Hispanic Heritage Council for the good work that they do in keeping their tradition alive, but at the same time inviting everybody else in. And so I've participated with them over the last couple of years, and I love having the opportunity to read to children. I was joined by the superintendent of schools, Don Ogilvie, and others who participated, and I read the book that was written by the late Governor Mario Cuomo, and it's a book that gives young people hope that if they stay with it and they stay with their dream, that they're going to get there, no matter what happens and no matter how the difficulty is and whether you have good days or bad days, stay with it. And that's the encouraging message that I give to our young people when I'm given an opportunity to read to them.
Well, Mark, that's all the time we have for this week's Controller's Corner. Thanks for joining us.
Patrick.
And thanks for joining us at home. Make sure to check out the City Controller's website at city-buffalo.com/controller, the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, and our Twitter handle. On behalf of Mark Schroeder, this is Pat Curry signing off. We'll see you next time on Controller's Corner.